or these crazy right-wing radical Christian nationalists that think that we're supposed to be over in Israel so that Jesus can come back on a white horse. Have you seen that?
Oh, no.
Oh, Jamie, pull that story up that I sent you, or I could resend it to you if you want.
Wow.
There's a crazy story that was on Yahoo about this guy who's a non-commissioned officer that went to a military debriefing. So it was like an operation readiness meeting or a war meeting, and one of these guys, one of these high-level commanders says, don't be worried because Trump is anointed by Jesus Christ to bring back the return.
Oh, no.
To bring back Jesus' return on earth. Commander claimed Trump was anointed by Jesus to cause Armageddon to justify the Iran tax.
Wow. See, that's like up there with Allah will protect me.
Exactly.
It's the same shit.
The same shit. It's just coming from a different religion.
Yeah,
but it's the same mindset.
Wow, nothing gets past this guy. Truly just one of the greatest minds we've ever had as a species. Yes, Joe, great job. Christian nationalists are quite terrifying. Some might even argue they pose one of the greatest existential threats the United States currently faces because they're both incredibly powerful and certifiably insane. Here's one.
So I'll close with scripture, drawing strength from Psalm 144. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. He is my loving God and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield, in whom I take refuge. May the Lord grant unyielding strength and refuge to our warriors, unbreakable protection to them and our homeland, and total victory over those who seek to harm them. And amen. God bless our troops and this mission.
Okay, see, for a second, I thought war was bad, but then he read from the Bible. So now I don't have to do any critical thinking because he appealed to the ultimate authority. Thank goodness. For a second, I thought I was going to have to hold two thoughts in my head at the same time, and that was going to be incredibly painful. Also, not for nothing, but pocket squares evolved from ancient times when Egyptians and Greeks would use them to blow their nose. So I find it incredibly funny that this drunk doofus is reading from the Bible while also implying that if he gets the sniffles, he will blow his nose on the American flag. People tell you who they are. So this next clip is of a scholar who's been paying very close attention to who these Christian nationalists are, who are just so excited about going to war with Iran.
I'm going to get hate for this, and that's all right, but I do not think that the Iran war is a distraction for the EPI files. I wrote my master's thesis on Project 2025 and Christian nationalism and U.S. military chaplaincy. Everything that is going on with Iran has been in the works for years, if not decades, particularly by the Christian right. There's a reason why Lindsey Graham and Mike Huckabee are the face leaders for this. It is not a distraction when the head of the DoD 6 years ago wrote a book with his manifesto talking about literally exactly what's going on. There's a reason why the head of the DoD brought in a very specific pastor to come and bless the troops and to show what kind of Christianity they were headed in. There are Christians that are in power that want a holy war, and there are very wealthy AI tech people that will gladly support that. And obviously oil, but what else is new? The EPI files are horrible. I've read them, I've made myself sick over them. They are not going to war because of that. They think it's annoying that we think all of that is horrible, that we're against the Iran. They don't care.
Go off. Now, I agree with her specifically. I also agree with her kind of broadly in that I get a little frustrated when people kind of reduce incredibly complex issues down to just being distractions, even though I agree with the rhetorical aims of that sentiment. Insofar as I believe we should be able to hold multiple issues in our mind at the same time without allowing one to kind of fall to the wayside as soon as a new one arrives. It's just kind of a pet peeve. But in addition to the pet peeve, there's this apocalyptic fear I have, and that apocalyptic fear comes from a group of people who believe they've been sent by God to start the apocalypse. So also Revelation is apocalyptic literature, and many Christians didn't even want it in the Bible originally because of how violent and how symbolic and therefore prone to misuse it was. And many scholars believe, for example, that 666 was in reference to Nero. It was kind of this coded language, and it was used to kind of garner support at a time during Roman oppression. But who cares about all that? Let's just take it literally and blow up the world. And if you're going to blow up the world, make sure you do it with some sick and potentially questionable ink. Tattoos.
Let's talk about Pete Hegseth's tattoos, because at first glance, it might just seem like the same lame body art that you see on the type of guy that you normally cover your drinks around, but his tapestry actually tells a much more disturbing story. In fact, one of his tattoos actually got him flagged by a National Guardsman in 2021, which led to him being labeled as an extremist and pulled from the security detail protecting President Biden during the inauguration. Now, to understand why, we need to talk about the symbols. So first up, we have the Jerusalem cross. Historically, it became the coat of arms for the Kingdom of Jerusalem during the Crusades. But in modern times, the cross has been revived by Christian nationalist and far-right groups who use it as a rallying symbol for what they see as the new crusade, reclaiming America for God. You know, something that Pete talks and writes about constantly. Now, on its own, maybe that tattoo could just be written off as a guy who's just really into Christian medieval history, but not when it's paired with this, Deus Vult, Latin for God wills it. And during the First Crusade, this was the battle cry that was shouted by Christian armies before they invaded Muslim lands. And today, in violent far-right and white supremacist circles, the Jerusalem cross and Deus Vult go hand in hand. If you just scroll through the darker corners of online and extremist spaces, you'll see this pairing everywhere. It's basically become shorthand for a modern holy war mindset. And then there's this tattoo. And if you grew up in a small town like I did, then probably the worst guy you knew from high school has this tattoo. And they definitely weren't compensating for anything. It's the AR-15 paired with the American flag. Yeehaw! Except you may have noticed that this version is a little bit different because the stars are arranged differently. Some people say the stars are arranged as an HH or as an 8-8. And in Yahtzee symbolism, the 8-8 refers to the 8th letter of the alphabet being H. Which, if you know, you know. And nope, we're not done yet, because there's this one. It's a cross merged with a sword. And it's apparently referencing a verse in a book that people love quoting. It's a verse in the Gospel of Matthew where Jesus says, "Do not suppose that I came to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." Which, come to think of it, really tracks for somebody who renamed the Department of Defense the Department of War.
To be clear, you can cover your drink around Pete Hegseth, but you're still going to come back to an empty glass. Hey-o! Now, I don't know if I agree with everything that creator was saying. I think Occam's razor, or Occam's sword, to use Hegseth's preferred language, would be that maybe he was just too intoxicated to notice there weren't enough stars on his flag tattoo, or maybe he was just rock hard as a result of the big gun that he was also getting on it. But whatever the case may be, actions speak louder than tattoos. And Hegseth's actions point in one direction. Reich. Three Reichs. A third Reich. Also, when Jesus was talking about the whole sword thing, he was talking about how his message would divide families and communities because it spoke against the religious orthodoxy of the day. And so it was comparatively radical. It wasn't an actual, he wasn't talking about an actual sword. Hegseth, you moron.
God could make all of this happen without Mike Huckabee's help, or Mike Johnson's help. but you know, they have to help God because they've made themselves as God and violated the second commandment. And there are millions of Americans. I don't think a lot of people anywhere understand how many millions of people, you know, the 92% number in the evangelical Christian camp on that table. 92% of evangelical Christians believe that we're living in the last days and that Jesus is going to return sometime in their lifetimes. And they believe that maniacally. So it's really difficult to help other people understand that they destroy their whole country and the whole planet to see their Bibles come true.
Yeah, I really don't think the threat that Christian nationalists pose to the United States can be overstated. And I say that as someone with a deep love and affinity for Christianity and for Christians. In fact, I consider myself a Christian, though not in a way that many Americans would agree with, which I take as a compliment. I like the distinction that Cornel West makes between prophetic Christianity and Constantinian Christianity, the latter of which is at least if not the dominant strand of Christianity in the United States. And it's characterized by an allegiance to and alignment with empire, whereas prophetic Christianity is more subversive and it's about speaking truth to power and challenging oppressive hierarchies. I like that one. I don't like the other one because it's psychotic. And also, I don't believe you can make rational foreign policy decisions if you believe you've been anointed by God to usher in the apocalypse, because that's not how rationality works. And I think that we need rationality when we're dealing with bombs. But, that's just me. That's my take. Anyway, I think that at the very least, Christian nationalism should instill in all of our hearts a incredibly rational and justifiable fear, especially as this ideology continues to gain power and influence. Okay, on that note, I'm going to go pray, and may God have mercy on at least several of our souls. But I mean, no, all of them, but really, really, we're going to need a lot of praying. So you see, I said praying and not tanks or planes with bomb. But what do I know? I'm not Pete Hegseth or Joe Rogan. Socrates? No, thank you. I'll take Hegseth and Rogan. Okay. We're all going to die.